So what is it about Baldur's Gate, and why is this one of the best games you'll ever play? Guys, welcome to the channel, and yes, this is the ongoing review of Baldur's Gate, but at this point, I have a strong opinion about it. It is fantastic. You know what I talk about often regarding Star Citizen? How there's no game, how there's no meat, how there's no story, there's no actual real content. There's nothing really for you to do. There's no stories. There's no adventuring. There's no discovering. All of that is here. This is the exact opposite of everything that Star Citizen does not have. Of course, it's a different game. It's not about spaceships. But in terms of game developing, in terms of the art of it, this is art. This is a passion for making video games like I haven't seen in a very long time. And I actually can give you a number. I haven't seen this in 25 years. That's when I first played Baldur's Gate. Not this one, but the first Baldur's Gate that came out in 1998. You know what it is? It's the exact same thing that you see here. The attention to details, scrolling, moving around with your mouse, because every little thing, just like this, I hadn't even planned this, but just like this, you see a little branch, and you can go and you can pick it up. And maybe it's not a branch, maybe it's just a little button in a rock. And if you miss that, hours and hours of hard work goes unnoticed. That's usually not the kind of thing that companies do these days. They don't care about that sort of thing. If they had invested money, time, they want you to see it. It has to be part of the game. When you do that, you miss out on the magic of video games in terms of discovery, in terms of adventures, in terms of I can go anywhere and I don't know what could happen. It could be anything, man. So this is different from the Baldur's Gate that I played the first time in 1998. It was still magical. I remember how it felt like those first minutes, those first hours of adventuring, having an open world map. I think it started in a storm, and you're like escaping, and you end up in an inn, and you can actually pick like the kind of rooms, either the nicer ones, the cheaper ones, or the more expensive ones, and they just trigger it perfectly. They just adjust it perfectly for you to not have enough money, so you're just wondering what could possibly the idea of, well, maybe I won't spend all my money, I'll get the cheaper room, and then when you get the nicer one with silk sheets, it just feels a lot better. Example, I've been playing for like 10 hours this game, maybe more, and I've walked across the same part many times. I hadn't seen this before. Let's just open this and see what you have here. You have a shovel, you need a shovel, there's another one there, and there you go. Someone buried this, and I have some component for some alchemist stuff, some gold. The game is by turns, right? You just have to move around, and here we have the ship in which it all starts. You're in one of these, in a ship in which you have a Todd pod installed in your brain, basically, that is slowly but surely killing you, but at the same time is giving you powers. So this is where you start the game, and after so many hours, the map is so huge, I'm still here, because it's not linear. Nothing that happens here is predictable. You may just start walking on one direction and end up in an adventure that's completely different from what you had in mind, and then you go in some other direction and you have something else going on, and it's so rich, it's so deep. The way in which you play this is basically on you. You kill someone, you get some nice gear, yeah, sure, but you have, and this is, again, there's so much here that I saw in the first Baldur's Gate. The idea of you being able to talk with animals, right? The idea of, yes, you can collect little mushrooms and things, and you can make potions, but this is so in depth. You can just walk anywhere, and you just don't know what will happen, and it is addictive. It's addictive in the good way, not in the pay to win kind of way, no. And it is original. It is mature. It is mature, as in you can just get your character and remove all of the clothing and the underwear, and he will end up basically naked as as nature intended him to be. That is the level of maturity, and that's just an example of how this is not about screwing around. This is not kiddie stuff, right? Yeah, sure, any teenager can play this and have a lot of fun. Maybe for younger audiences it's a little bit too dramatic and violent, and the stories are a little bit too serious in the decisions you make. So, maybe, yeah, teenager, older, definitely aiming for that older target audience. But man, it is such a treat to finally be able to enjoy this as well. So one of the things you definitely want to understand is this is by turns. Anything you do in terms of attack, right? You have it's a turn-based game, right? So you have your movements, and you have a few points for you to move a certain distance. It's a bit of an acquired taste. Give it time. Be patient. This is not a game that you just fall in love with immediately. But if you give it time, you will understand exactly what I mean. A few new additions, the jumping, this is new stuff. It wasn't there before. So now, and yes, you can exit, of course. So when you're walking around, it's not turn-based. There's sneaking around. There's so many enchantments. Many of these are familiar, and I do remember some. The more you play it, the more you remember stuff. Jumping, this is something new. You can actually jump from one place to another, and this is important for the game. There's parts where you cannot advance if you don't get the hang of jumping. Also, moving the camera with S, D, A, and W, right, with your classics, and also Q and E. So you can move around, you can rotate, and just try going everywhere. Try seeing what you can get away with. You'll find so much to do here, and I haven't even started. This is, you just find a hole in the ground, you go in there, and you end up God knows where. You follow a storyline, you follow a little side quest, what you thought was just a little side quest. Scrapwood shield, okay, what is this? Just things you just wouldn't have thought of. It's so full of things for you to do. The way in which it's so original, you start caring for your characters, for your NPCs, like I have never done before. I've never come across a game, and I've been playing video games for such a long time, I've never come across a video game where you learn so much about the NPCs, your companions, the people that are involved in the quests you're doing. There's so much detail in every single aspect of the game, it just blows your mind. As I was saying before, it's the exact opposite of what a game / tech demo like Star Citizen is, where nothing really matters. There's no involvement with anything. You don't progress on any aspect. No, here you have progression. Now that I've sold you on the game, and yes, it is a must-buy game, guys. This is like you not having played Grand Theft Auto 5 or Red Dead Redemption. I would even put it above that in terms of the quality of the game, the attention to detail, and how deep it goes into the stories. Just scratching on the surface will blow your mind like no other game has done before. I'm purposefully not playing and just killing some of these things, because it's a lot better if you don't do that. Please don't waste your time with these YouTube videos that just ruin the story for you. Just try to make it on your own. Trust me, they have designed this game so well. There's not just one way of doing things. There's usually 2, 3, 4, even 5 ways of getting around the same objective, the same quest, the same thing you need to tackle. And just get lost in there. Just move around, find whatever companions you like. Now on the things that are a little bit of a negative, well, this moving around of the camera at times, it is a little bit of a getting used to, and at times if it's a little bit too crowded, if you're like in a in a cave, or if there's just too much around you, it can be tricky, and you can get around it eventually, but it takes a little bit of moving and getting used to. It is a little bit overwhelming, I will say just that, in terms of of the enchantments and the possibilities and throwing stuff and jumping and different type of jumping and rushing to stuff. So it can be a little bit overwhelming. It is important to learn the camera. It is important for you to see these things from all angles. That was not something that happened in Baldur's Gate 1 or even Baldur's Gate 2. It was fixed in one position and they made the best out of it. You can scroll in and out and that gives you a lot of options. You have your maps, you have your quests. Follow those. Try to keep it simple and don't do too much at once and try to follow, because given how deep it is and how easy it is to get sidetracked on pretty much even the side quest missions, all of a sudden you're doing something completely unexpected. That's something to... And yes, there's a couple broken mechanics and cutscenes that don't quite align. That's entirely understandable. Given how complex this is, I can very much forgive them for that. Guys, this is a game like you won't see in a long time. This is one every 10, 20 years kind of game. I'm really waiting for that Starfield, and yes, looking forward to it, but man, is this addictive in the best possible way. Especially, you know what? If you played Baldur's Gate 1 like I did, but even beyond that, if you read Dungeons and Dragons, if you read the A.R.A. Salvatore series of books, Dress the Wonder, and the Companions of the Halls, all of these things, it will blow your mind. The way in which you find so much of that here. It's not necessary. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be a giant nerd to appreciate that. You will do that on your own. You know why? Because thanks to all of that content, thanks to all of that creativity, this is possible. This is possible because so many people broke their brains imagining a different world. And that's what this game mostly benefits from. A kind of lore like you haven't seen before. It's Dungeons and Dragons at its best. No, it's not the paper and pen thing, but it's as close as it gets in terms of people doing their best attempt, their best shot at translating the creativity of your brain into a video game like no one else had done before. Don't let this pass. Don't forget about this game. And if it's a little bit overwhelming at first, just be patient. You will figure it out on your own. And trust me, a couple hours after that, you will be hooked in the best possible way. Guys, if you appreciate my videos, subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up, share it, especially with people that do love video games. Good ones, when they're well done, when they are art, when they are an expression of what people are capable of. You don't want to miss Baldur's Gate 3. Take care. See you on the next video.